Today we are going to discuss about the structure of an atom in this video. You all have read, you all have learned the basic ideas of the structure of an atom in the previous class, that is in the 8th standard. In the previous class you have learned the Dalton's atomic theory. You have also learned that an atom is the smallest particle of an element, and an atom is consisting of three types of subatomic particles or fundamental particles, namely electrons, protons and neutrons. You also have learned that among these three types of subatomic particles, electrons are the negatively charged particles, protons are the positively charged particles and neutrons are electrically neutral in nature. Now, in the beginning we shall be discussing a brief history behind the discovery of these three fundamental particles or subatomic particles of an atom. First, electron was discovered. Who discovered it first? Sir Scientist J.J. Thomson first discovered electron, and it was then called as cathode particle or the particle of cathode ray. An electron has negligible mass. The charge of an electron is minus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. Next is, after the discovery of electron, it was also observed by experiment that the ratio of charge to mass, or you can say the ratio of E by M, the E by M value of an electron is same in all the materials. So what I am trying to say is the E by M value or the ratio of charge and mass for all the electrons of all the materials is same. This is the proof of the fact that electron is a fundamental particle of an atom. Next, we can say that an atom is electrically neutral. So, scientists, this fact provoked the thought that if an atom is electrically neutral and if there are negatively charged particles present in an electron, there must be equal amount of positively charged particle present in an atom. Otherwise, how can the atom be electrically neutral? This fact led scientists to the search of more experiments, and eventually protons were discovered. E. Goldstein was the person who first observed the presence of proton, also known as anode-ray. And proton, what is a proton? It is a particle. It is made up of energy, and the charge present in a proton particle is plus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. And it is also seen that the mass of proton is more than the mass of electron. I mean to say that if you compare the mass of one proton, you will see that a mass of one proton is equivalent to the mass of 1836 electrons. Which means what? Proton is heavier, one proton particle is heavier than one electron particle by many times. And then it was scientist Stoney who first symbolized proton, it was scientist Stoney who first symbolized electron as small e. Electron is written as small e, proton is written as small p, and scientist Rutherford proposed the name proton. These are the brief subatomic particle, and neutron is the heaviest subatomic particle present in an atom. After the experiments and after the discovery of electron and proton, Sir J.J. Thomson gave the model of an atom. He tried to form the structure of how an atom can be. This model is like this. J.J. Thomson proposed that an atom is consisting of two parts. There is a sphere which is made up of positively charged particles uniformly distributed, and there are negatively charged particles, that is electrons. They are present in embedded condition, or they are scattered in the sphere of the positively charged particle. This was the idea of J.J. Thomson, and this model of the structure of an atom is called plum-pudding model. However, this model has one merit and one demerit. What is the merit? The merit is this model can prove the electrical neutrality of an atom. An atom is electrically neutral. This statement can be proved by this plum-pudding model of J.J. Thomson. But it has a drawback also. The drawbacks were proved by the experiments that were carried out by the scientists of the later age. After the experiments, it is seen that there are some metals, heavy metals, who emit some radiations. The plum-pudding model of scientist J.J. Thomson successfully proved the electrical neutrality of an atom. But the experiments that were carried out afterwards by other scientists, those experiments, the results of those experiments cannot be explained by this plum-pudding model. During this period of time, like many other accidental discoveries in the field of science, radioactivity was discovered. It was a spontaneous and accidental incident that Henry Becquerel accidentally discovered this radioactive ray. He was working with some uranium salt, and he saw the radiation of that salt, uranium salt, and later on Madame Curie he experimentally proved the presence, the existence of radioactive elements. What is the meaning? What is the definition of a radioactivity or radioactive elements? If we have to define the radioactivity, then we can define it like this: the spontaneous emission of radiation during the spontaneous emission of radiation by the disintegration of the unstable nuclei of atom of some elements of higher atomic mass is known as radioactivity, and the elements who show this phenomena, they are called radioactive elements. Uranium, isotope of uranium, polonium, radium, actinium, these are some examples of radioactive elements. Madame Curie and his husband Pierre Curie, they discovered two radioactive elements, polonium and radium. Next is, it was observed that in the radiation that is coming from a radioactive element, the radiation, the ray is composed of, the ray contains three different types of radiations. I am telling this statement again. The ray that is emitted from a radioactive element, that ray contains three different types of radiations, three different types of rays. alpha ray, beta and gamma ray. So I will state that the radioactive rays are composed of three types of rays. The radioactive ray has three types of radiations, that is alpha ray, beta ray and gamma ray. Alpha ray is positively charged helium particle. Each alpha particle has 4 unit mass and each alpha particle has +2 charge. The charge of an alpha particle is +2. Next is beta ray. What is that? Beta ray is flow of electron. It has no mass, but the charge of beta ray is, what is the charge of an electron? -1. Third type is gamma ray. Gamma ray is nothing but electromagnetic wave. It has no mass particle. Okay, and the SI unit of radioactivity is becquerel. He do this experiment. He did this experiment to get a clear idea of how the structure of atom is actually how the structure of an atom is actually present. So he took gold foil, extremely thin gold foil, and in vacuum tube he put that gold foil, and he allowed many alpha rays, fast moving alpha rays, to fall on that gold foil. 3 observations were seen. He made 3 observations. Number 1, most of the fast moving alpha particles are passing through. I am repeating it once again. Most of the fast moving alpha particles pass through the gold foil. Number 2, some of the alpha particles, when they are going in a straight line, after passing some alpha particles going in a straight line, they are deflecting from their straight line by making a little angle. And number 3, very few, about 1 out of 12,000, very few alpha particles appear to be rebound. 3 observations. Now, what are the conclusions of these 3 observations? From the first observation, that is, fast moving alpha particles are passing through the gold foil, he concluded that maximum space inside an atom is empty. Observation number 2, some alpha particles are deflecting by making little angles. Conclusion with respect to this observation, what will be the conclusion? There is the presence of positively charged particles in an atom at a very small space. And observation number 3, very few, very less, about 1 out of 12,000 alpha particles are coming back. They are appearing to rebound by making 180-degree angle. Deflection is 180-degree angle. It proves that almost all the mass and the total charge of an electron, total positive charge of an electron, is concentrated at a very small space inside of an atom. This small space is called the nucleus of an atom. The volume of the nucleus of an atom is extremely lesser than the volume of the atom itself. From these observations and from these conclusions, Rutherford prepared the model of the structure of an atom. What are the main features of this model, Rutherford's atomic model? Rutherford's model of structure of the atom has 3 main points we have to remember. Number one is almost all the mass and the total charge of an atom is concentrated at a very small space inside of an atom. This small space is called the nucleus, which is extremely small and less in volume. Number 2, negatively charged particles, electrons, revolve around the positively charged nucleus in some specific orbits at a very high speed. This we need to remember. Number 2, point number 2, I am repeating this point again. Negatively charged particle, electrons, revolve around the nucleus, revolve around the positively charged nucleus in a circular path at a very high speed. The total amount of the positive charge and the negative charge in an atom is equal, which makes the atom electrically neutral. Number 3, structure point number 3. The size of the nucleus is extremely small with respect to the size of the atom. It is said that the size of the nucleus is 10 to the power minus 13 centimeter, whereas the size of the atom is 10 to the power minus 8 centimeter. Now, this model of the structure of an atom, which is given by Rutherford, this has 2 defects. Now, one defect I will discuss here. That is, Rutherford says that electrons move around the nucleus in circular paths at a very high speed. But according to the laws of electrodynamics, when a negatively charged particle revolves around a positively charged particle in circular path at a very high speed, the negatively charged particle will continuously emit radiation, which will cause loss of energy continuously. As a result of this continual loss of energy, the electron will follow a spiral path. The electron will follow a spiral path and it will gradually approach to the nucleus and it will eventually fall on the nucleus, leading the complete collapse of the atom, and the structure of the atom will be unstable. This cannot be explained by this question, this fact cannot be explained by Rutherford's model of an atom. Next, the objections which were raised against the structure of Rutherford's model of an atom was corrected by Niels Bohr's model of the structure of an atom. Niels Bohr put forward some postulates. In order to overcome the objections raised against the Rutherford's model of an atomic structure was corrected by the postulates given by Niels Bohr. In 3 points it is discussed. Number 1, out of innumerable number of orbits, electrons rotate in some selected permissible orbits around the nucleus. Number 2, when an electron is rotating around the nucleus in some specific permissible orbit, it will neither radiate nor absorb any energy. The energy level of that specific orbit will be fixed. There will be no change in the energy level. It has the orbit as well as the electron will have a specific energy. Such orbit is called stationary orbit. And number 3, electron may jump from one energy level to another energy level. Here I want to say you one thing. In the previous standard in class 8, you have read that what are orbits? Orbits are energy levels. Orbits are nothing but energy levels. The orbits which are nearer to the nucleus are of less energy. So if I ask you that which orbit has the lowest amount of energy, the answer will be the orbit which is present nearest to the nucleus. The more you go away from the nucleus, the more will be the energy level of the orbits. That is another thing. Now coming back to point number 3 is the electrons, sometimes they can jump from one orbit to another orbit. If an electron jumps from higher energy level to lower energy level, then there will be a loss of energy. And if electron jumps from lower energy level to higher energy level, or energy level or an orbit of lower energy level to an orbit of higher energy level, there will be gain of energy by that electron. One more thing is there to tell, that is, according to Niels Bohr model of the structure of an atom, an electron can never remain in an intermediate position between two orbits. It has to be in any orbit. Next is spectrum, formation of spectrum. Here I shall discuss the whole topic of spectrum very briefly and in 3-4 points only. Number 1, transition. What is transition? Electrons, the phenomenon in which electrons jump from one energy level to another energy level is known as transition. I am repeating, what is transition? Electrons jumping from one energy level to another energy level is known as transition. The next point will be excitation. What is excitation? The first point was transition. Second point will be excitation. Third point will be de-excitation. And the fourth point will be line spectrum. Line spectrum or discontinuous spectrum. Line spectrum or discontinuous spectrum. I have already discussed the first one, transition. The phenomenon of jumping of electrons from one energy level to another energy level is known as transition. Next is excitation. If an electron is jumping from a lower energy level to higher energy level, the electron will absorb, the electron will get energy. This is called excitation. Opposite, de-excitation. If an electron is jumping from higher energy level to lower energy level, that electron will lose some energy, or the electron will radiate some energy. This is known as de-excitation. What is line spectrum or discontinuous spectrum? This is the second defect of Rutherford's model of the structure of an atom. One defect I have discussed previously, that is already discussed, and this one is the other defect of Rutherford's model of an atom, the formation of line spectrum. The formation of line spectrum cannot be explained by Rutherford's model of an atom. What is it? The line spectrum or discontinuous spectrum? The last point, line spectrum or discontinuous spectrum. The spectrum produced by an excited atom is discontinuous in nature because the distance between the two consecutive spectral lines is empty. Such a spectrum is called line spectrum or discontinuous spectrum. line spectrum cannot be explained by Rutherford's model of the structure of an atom. Our next topic will be very common to you all because you all have read it in the previous year. That is isotope, isobar and isotone. What is the concept of isotope? Concept of isotope. Here isotone. One example I will give of each type. Element having different mass number is known as isotope. Now what is the meaning of mass number and atomic number? You know very well. What is mass number of an atom? The total number of proton and neutron present in the nucleus of an atom is called the mass number of that atom. And what is atomic number? The total number of proton present in the nucleus is called the atomic number. So if you look at this one, this is common hydrogen. In common hydrogen, what is the atomic number? 1. What is the mass number? 1 plus 0 is equal to 1. Why 0? 0 is the, what is 0? There is no neutron in the nucleus. So 1 is the proton and there is no neutron, so mass number is 0. The mass number is 1. Whereas 2 more isotopes are found. Atomic number is same because they are same elements, they are atoms of same elements, but their mass number is different. Why? Due to the presence of different number of neutrons in the nucleus. Here how many neutrons? 1 proton plus 1 neutron, so mass number is 2. 1 proton plus 2 neutrons, so the mass number is 3. Isotope is over. Next is isobar. What is isobar? Atoms of different elements having same mass number are called isobars. Example: carbon 14 and nitrogen C14 and nitrogen 14. Atomic number 6, atomic number 7. Mass number 14, mass number 14. The mass number is same. The atomic number obviously the atomic number will be different because they are atoms of different elements. Mass number is same. Why? Because the mass number is same, so they are isobars of each other. Next is isotone. What is isotone? Atoms of different elements having equal number of neutron in the nucleus are called isotones of each other. Silicon, phosphorus, sulfur. What is the proton number of silicon? 14, 15, 16 proton numbers, and the mass number 30, 31, 32. So if I ask you now, what is the neutron number here in this case, silicon's case? What is the neutron number? How will you calculate? Mass number minus atomic number is equal to neutron number. 30 minus 14 is equal to 16. So 16 neutrons are there in the nucleus. Phosphorus 31 minus 15. 31 minus 15 is equal to 16. This is the 16 is the mass number. 16 is the neutron number for phosphorus. And for sulfur, 32 minus 16 mass number minus atomic number is equal to neutron number. So how many neutrons in each of the cases? 16. Equal number of neutrons. This is called called isotone. One thing is there that is important to tell. What is the main difference between isotope, isobar and isotone? In case of isotope, the chemical properties of the different atoms are same because they have same electronic configuration. But the physical properties will be different because they have different mass number. In case of isobar, the chemical property will be completely different because they have different number of protons, so they will have different electronic configuration, but as they have same mass number, their physical properties will be same. Isotone, they have different physical properties as well as different chemical properties because they have different mass number and different proton number. Here these three concepts finishes. The topic is nuclear force. The nucleus is the most stable part of an atom. Now, in the nucleus, what is present? The nucleons are present. The nucleons means proton and neutron. These two particles are called nucleons, the nuclear particles. But the question arises that all the protons have same charges. So we have read that same charges repel each other and opposite charges attract each other. Then how so many protons can remain at a place? Why do not they repel each other, and how the nucleus is so stable? The explanation is this: the normal Coulombic force, that is the force of repulsion, cannot act in such a low range of distance. You imagine how small the nucleus is, very small. So in such a small distance, there is no normal Coulombic repulsion force among the protons. Rather, there is another type of force of attraction which is present in between proton-neutron and neutron-neutron. What type of force it is? It's a type of gravitational force. But this force is called nuclear force. This nuclear force can act at a very small range of distance. On the other hand, Coulombic force can act on a high range of distance, large range of distance. So this is why we see, by the help of this nuclear force, proton and proton, two proton particles are attracting each other, two neutrons attracting each other, proton and neutron are attracting each other by this force. This is called nuclear force. After that, one question comes in mind, that from where this force have originated. It is assumed that this force has originated during the interconversion of the nuclear particles of an atom. I am repeating this once again. During the exchange of the charge during the interconversion of the nuclear particles, when proton is converting into neutron or vice versa, exchange of charge will happen. During that time, this force is produced. The next topic is very common to you again, that is valency of an element and distribution of electrons in different orbits. Electrons are distributed in different orbits. These orbits are also called shells. What these shells actually are? They are energy levels. The shell present nearer to the nucleus will have lesser energy, and the shells present far away from the nucleus will have a greater amount of energy. Now, you all have read about 2n square formula. 2n square formula means 2 into, what is the meaning of n? What does it represent? It represents the orbital number. In class 8 you have read that if this is the nucleus Orbital number means ordinal number. What is the number of orbit for K shell? 1. The ordinal number for L shell is 2. The ordinal number for M shell is 3. The ordinal number for N shell is 4, and so on. The utility of 2n square formula is, with the help of this formula we can know that how many electrons can be present at maximum. What is the maximum number of electrons that can be present in an orbit? So for K shell, if we apply this formula, 2 into what is the ordinal number of L shell? 1. 1 square is equal to 2. So it means that K shell can have 2 electrons maximum 2 electrons. L shell will have 2 into n square. 2 is the ordinal number. 2 into n square means ordinal number square. What is the ordinal number for L shell? That is 2 again. So 2 into 4 is equal to 8. L shell can have 8 electrons in maximum. Similarly, M shell, what is the ordinal number of M shell? 3. By applying 2n square formula, what we can write? 2 into 3 square. 2 into 3 square. 18. M shell can have highest 18 electrons, and N shell will have 32 electrons maximum. But there is a thing, that is the outermost shell always wants to have 8 electrons. Why? Because every atom of an element wants to be stable. When the outermost shell of an atom is not having 8 electrons, it is not in stable condition, but it wants to be in stable condition. So what it will do? It will either give, or it will receive, or it will share electrons. Why? To make the number of electrons in the outermost shell 8. Why 8? Because until and unless it gets 8 electrons in the outermost orbit, it will not be in stable condition. So the outermost orbit is known as valency orbit or valency shell. The last topic of this chapter is ionization of an atom. Ionization of an atom. By absorption or radiation of energy. Atoms are electrically neutral, ions are electrically charged particles. Is it possible to ionize an atom? Yes, it is possible. How? How is it possible? According to Niels Bohr, the atom which is rotating in a permissible orbit neither radiates nor absorbs any energy. But the energy which is radiated, or the amount of energy rather, which is radiated or absorbed by an atom will always be a whole multiple of the small and definite quantity of energy. This small and definite quantity of energy is called quanta. This is one thing. Another thing is how can we make an atom convert into ion? Now if you consider the structure, this is the nucleus which is present at the center, and in some circular paths the electrons are moving, rather revolving around the nucleus. There is a force of attraction given by the nucleus towards each of the electrons, but the electron which is present in the valence shell or the outermost shell, on that electron lowest amount of force of attraction of the nucleus will be. If we supply sufficient amount of energy to the electron can easily overcome the force of attraction given by the nucleus, and it can completely detach from the nucleus. What will happen if this electron completely detaches and goes away from the nucleus? Atom will convert into ion. An atom will convert into an ion. What type of ion? By using electron, obviously atom will convert into cation. This is how we can ionize an atom, by giving energy. Ionization energy of an atom. What is the meaning of ionization energy of an atom? The amount of energy required, better I write this at first, it will help you to understand. M ionization energy of an atom, the amount of energy which is required to remove an electron from the valence shell of an isolated gaseous atom in its ground state is called the first ionization energy of that atom. Why we will do that? To get cation. This is the reason we will do that. What is the result of ionization? The result is getting cation. I am repeating this once again. Ionization energy of an atom means the energy which is required, the amount of energy which is required to remove an electron from an isolated gaseous atom in its ground state from its outermost shell or valence shell to get a cation is called the first ionization energy of that atom. Here you see M is what? Atom. This is what? M plus means what? Cation. How atom converted into cation? By losing one electron. And how we have removed this electron from the outermost shell? Why from the outermost shell only? Because in the outermost shell the force of attraction of the nucleus on electrons is lowest. So in this way you can convert atom into ion. The last topic is atomic number and mass number. You all know about these two topics, atomic number and mass number. How it is written? Suppose the atomic number is expressed. Atomic number is expressed by capital capital Z and mass number is expressed by capital A. Suppose that we have an element, the name of the element is M. Where I'll write A? I'll write A here and Z here. Or if you write the Z here, it is also correct. Atomic number and mass number. What is the relationship between atomic number and mass number? What is atomic number? The total number of proton and the total number of neutron present in the nucleus. What is atomic number? Atomic number is the number of proton that is present in the nucleus. And what is mass number? The total number of proton and neutron present in the nucleus is mass number. So, atomic number mass number is equal to total number of proton plus total number of neutron. This is A. Total number of proton means Z atomic number. So A is equal to Z plus total number of neutron. A is equal to Z plus N. This is the relationship between atomic number and mass number. And what is the meaning of nuclide? Nuclide, it is a term which is commonly used to express an atom. Suppose I write M. The atomic number of M is A and the mass number of M is Z. So I am expressing one atom of this element. How? By writing the atomic number and the mass number. This process, this is called nuclide. Nuclide is a term which is usually used to express an atom along with the atomic number and the mass number. One thing is there, remember this, when you are reading, when you are studying about radioactivity, who first discovered radioactivity? Henry Becquerel. After his name, the SI unit, remember this, the SI unit of radioactivity is Becquerel. This is to remember.